Did you know you can move to Japan without a traditional job offer? I'm Austin, and today I'm going to be breaking down unique Japanese visas that most people miss, and which one might be your ticket to Japan. I've lived in Japan for 2.5 years, and I've done your research so you don't have to. Let's jump in. The first visa we go over is the Japanese Investor Visa. This is also known as the Business Manager Visa. So how this visa works is you kind of are able to self-sponsor yourself using some kind of business. The minimum investment is 5 million yen, and there are different amounts of length that the visa will be good for. So you can have 1, 3, or 5 years depending on the business performance. The 5 million yen might seem like a lot, but compared to other golden visas, like ones that used to be offered in Portugal, or one that's offered in Switzerland. And even the United States just offered one under Trump called the EB5 visa. It's actually significantly cheaper. So 5 million yen is about 30,000 ish United States dollars. Whereas, like, for example, the American visa is about $5 million. And then a Switzerland golden visa is about $2 million. So it's a much more affordable and realistic amount of money for more people. So some things to keep in mind with this visa is you need to have a clean criminal record. You need to have a business background. So sometimes you have to submit information about your education or your experience in this particular field and whether or not you've had this business before, like in your home country. You have to submit a business plan to the Japanese government, and the business plan will explain the nature of the applicant's business and demonstrate how it's operable and profitable in Japan. And there needs to be submitted to the Japanese authorities, and they're going to review the business plan and see if you're going to be able to sustain a lifestyle off of this business. You need the appropriate business licenses if they're required, 5 million yen in capital. You need to have a co-founder, and you also have to have a co-director. So sometimes you need to have a Japanese legal resident or someone to partner with so they can help you navigate the Japanese intricacies. You typically need to also have 2 full-time employees, and you need to also have an office space. A lot of these things take translation work too, so it would be good if you hired someone or if you knew someone that spoke Japanese, and then that way they can help you communicate with the government offices. So the second visa is the Japanese Ancestry Visa. If you have Japanese grandparents or great-grandparents, then you may be able to get this visa. So typically you need to have your ancestors' Japanese kouseki tohon, and then that way you can prove that that person was born in Japan and has a Japanese family registry. Then you can go and find your birth certificates of who was born in the United States, and you can show the Japanese ancestry through the chain. So you have to show the kouseki tohon and then the subsequent birth certificates for each descendant, and then to your descendant or birth certificate. And then that way you can prove to the Japanese government that you have Japanese ancestry. Something to keep in mind with this is actually if you are 5th generation, then you're not going to be able to get this visa. You have to be 3rd or 4th generation to use this ancestry visa. If you're 2nd generation and your parents are Japanese nationals, then you should be able to get the child of a Japanese national visa, and that's like a solely separate visa. But if you're 3rd or 4th generation, then you're able to use this ancestry visa. So a few other important things about this visa is, aside from having to be a 4th generation Japanese descendant and having the documentation for it, you also have an age requirement. The age is typically 18 to 30. There have been official notices that they have extended some applicants to 35 if they wanted to enter on this visa, but there is an age limit, so you can't do this if you are beyond those ages and if you want to retire in Japan. So they're trying to recruit young people back to Japan to probably supplement their workforce. So there is an age cap. So you need to prove your age with like a passport or your ID or your birth certificate of when you were born. You also have to have sufficient funds, and so that you can prove to the Japanese government that you have enough money to move there. You also need to be in quote unquote good health. So you need a doctor to attest that you are healthy enough to move to Japan and you can help and work and be a productive citizen. You also have to submit a criminal record certificate from your local jurisdiction. So wherever you're living or have lived before, you have to go to your local police department and show that you don't have any arrests, you don't have any convictions. Another thing you need to know is you need to know, as a 4th generation Japanese, you need to have a basic understanding of Japanese language. And so a lot of times you need at least N4 of JLPT and above. And then after that, every subsequent year, there's an expectation that your Japanese will improve. And then you have to participate in designated culture and language studies. And so from there, I think the expectation is that you will continue to improve your Japanese and submit that to the Japanese government. Another thing too is you typically need a Japanese sponsor, and this sponsor doesn't have to pay anything, but they call it securing a supporter. A 4th generation Japanese supporter can be an individual or organization that provides various support free of charge to enable 4th generation Japanese to carry out typical activities in Japan. There are companies that will do this, but if you have a distant relative or if you have have a friend that will volunteer to the Japanese government to say that they will help you in case of language issues or moving or helping get situated, then that is something that you will also need to have to get this visa. So the third Japanese visa is the high performing or highly skilled foreigner professional visa. This one is kind of like a work visa and has to do with you accumulating points to the Japanese government. So there are three main types. There's the advanced academic research activities, the advanced specialized technical activities, and the third is advanced business management activities. And so I'll show these on screen, but there are various categories of how that you can accumulate points. And once you hit the minimum threshold for the points, then you're able to get a Japanese high-skilled performance visa. These things will go over academic background, professional career, business, annual salary, and there will be bonus points for if you've studied in Japan, you have a Japanese degree, if you pass JLPT, if you have any foreign qualifications like bar license, a CPA, a CFA, and these kind of point systems will help you accumulate and get to that desired point total. The fourth visa is called, online they call it the breeding visa. This visa is actually called the specified visa for designated activities, future creation individual, spouse, or child of future creation individual. And this visa allows you 1 year to 6 months of a specific amount of time to look for a job and then transfer to a working visa. To get this visa, you have to, one, be at least the age of 18 and that you want to participate in job hunting, entrepreneurial activity for approximately 2 years in Japan. You also have to been awarded a qualification from an eligible university, and I'll show the eligible universities on the next screen, that you must have had this awarded qualification in the last 5 years. So you have to have graduated from that university in the last 5 years, and you have to have a personal savings of approximately 200,000 yen. So the list of Japanese universities that are required for this visa come from various countries. You can be from Hong Kong, the United States, Netherlands, China, Germany, United Kingdom, France, Sweden, and these are typically like the best universities in the country. So it's almost like the European high-performing individual visa. So Britain does something similar where if you graduated from a certain university like Stanford or Harvard or Columbia, you're able to move to the UK under these visas. There are also some public colleges. So if you went to a public university in your hometown, then you could qualify for this as well. So for example, there's Berkeley, there's Irvine, there's UCLA, there's San Diego, Santa Barbara. The easiest visa, which is the next visa, is likely the spousal visa. So if you get one of those shining ring things for your finger, then you might be able to move to Japan and become a Japanese resident. This also applies if your fiance or future spouse is a permanent resident of Japan. There are a little bit of different rules, but if you get married to a Japanese national or Japanese permanent resident, then you might be able to move to Japan, and then you can start living and having your own Japanese life. Problem is meeting people, and how you actually get married and stay married are tips for beyond this video. Just as an added bonus, we'll just throw in that whole JOB standard work visa thing. So if you get a job in Japan, they will sponsor you. Sometimes they'll even provide you housing. They'll take you through the process of how to apply for the visa, and a lot of times it's easier to get housing because the Japanese government will look to the company to be their guarantor for housing. Getting a Japanese apartment is typically very difficult. And one of the most common 3 professions I see foreigners get from abroad are 1, English teaching. That includes GABA, Kids Duo, JET, there's Heart, there's Aeon, like these various English teaching companies. So there's 2 types of English teaching companies that I typically see. One is you are an English teacher at a school, so you teach small students like in English few courses throughout the day. So another big bucket of English teaching is being an Eikaiwa professor. So that is when people pay for individual lessons. This might be kids, it might be adults, and they come to your Eikaiwa location and they try to talk English to you or go over English lessons as like a private tutor. Another foreigner job that I see a lot are recruiting jobs. So these are like headhunter jobs where people will look for candidates and then match them to a company for a specific job. And if that person ends up working there and stays past like a minimum period, that company will pay the recruiter a bonus or a commission. I see a lot of English teachers try to transition to this role because they get tired of teaching English or they don't really have a passion for teaching. And this job is a little bit more of a sales job where you can kind of be in more control of your own destiny and make more money. Some of the companies I see is like Robert Half, Specialized Group, and they will have directed postings maybe on LinkedIn, or they'll message you on LinkedIn, or they'll have a website where they have opportunities, and then they'll look for candidates that might fit the criteria that the company is looking for. And they're looking for bilingual N1 foreigners, or they're looking for specialized niche foreigner roles that foreigner might have an outside specialty that they can fill for that company. So whether you're an entrepreneur reconnecting with your roots or climbing the corporate ladder, Japan has a lot of visas that are available to you. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more Japan content, and let me know in the comments which visa you're aiming for. Thank you for watching, and until next time.